Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped. Now, a couple of years ago, I ran an MG ZS EV as my Hendy group long-termer for about 4 months. And honestly, when I was told I was getting that car, my heart sank a little bit, and I was like, oh, really? An MG? And I ran the car, and it impressed a great deal, and that was an early MG. Spring forward a couple of years, there are now 8 cars in the MG range. And the ZS has had a complete facelift. The only thing that car has in common with the one I drove is its name. It's a completely different platform. And also, that isn't a battery electric vehicle, that is a hybrid. That is the MG ZS Hybrid Plus. And in this video, I think you may well be surprised a little bit about MG. But what I want you to do is forget the badge. Now I know ignoring this badge is easier said than done, but I want us to try and do that because I really believe this is a car that needs to be judged on its merits, not by who makes it or where it's made. Now, the mid-size SUV segment is a hugely competitive and hugely popular one. They're not my cup of tea at all, but people buy them in their droves. They are one of the most widely purchased cars out there. They're outselling hatchbacks and saloons. And I kind of understand why. They're very practical, they're easy to get in and out of. The big challenge is they tend to kind of look the same. Styling wise, this car compared with the one I had has come on night and day. It really does look like a premium product, whether from the front or from the rear. When you look at it at the front, I'm liking the grille, I like the headlamp design, and there's a light bar that runs across the front. It's a nice, handsome looking car. Let's have a chat a little bit though about the power plant, because having driven it already to this beautiful location, it is a very smooth and really interesting drivetrain. So, under the bonnet then is a hybrid drivetrain. It's got a little 1.5 litre petrol engine, and that's coupled to an electric motor with a 1.83 kilowatt hour battery. The combined power of that is just shy of a couple of hundred horsepower. But I don't think, even having driven it briefly to get to this point here, I don't think it's the numbers really that are the important thing. It's the way that this hybrid drivetrain works. The smooth transition between when you're on the motor or when you're on the actual petrol engine. It drives like an EV, but it's not one of these EVs that has an electric drivetrain with a petrol engine range extender. It gets its traction, its motivation from either the internal combustion engine or the motor, but the way it does it, the way it transitions from one to the other is spookily smooth. Clearly at very slow speed you're running on EV, and you can hear the engine fire up, but it just does it really, really well. So yeah, very, very impressive drivetrain. Now there is going to be an all-electric version of this coming out in the new year, but it will be a different platform effectively. So there won't be a ZS EV like there was before. It's going to have a different name, but there will also be a pure petrol version coming in the new year. But the hybrid is very impressive. I'm going to get to the pricing shortly, but even though it's got a complex drivetrain, you're going to be gobsmacked at the price of this car. So let's carry on talking about styling. It's sitting on 18-inch alloys. I quite like the design. I like the little kick up on the rear shoulder, and then you get round the back, and the back, I was following one of these on the motorway today, and hear me out on this one, I see little bits of BMW in the back here. The lights, this light cluster, I think looks really stylish. It's a nice car. However, big no for me is it's got 2 totally fake exhausts. The actual exhaust is just sticking out just down there. You can see it. Now, for me, either go big or go home. You're either going to put, just, you know, rock it. If you've got a single exhaust, just have a single exhaust coming out there. You maybe put a twin tailpipe on it. That's absolutely fine. And then just have a nice kind of, I don't know, diffuser-y type valance there. Don't do the fake exhaust thing. I think it devalues the looks of the car. I love the external styling of this car. Apart from that, just, anyway. Next thing, boot size. It's a good old size in here. There's a false floor in there with some underfloor storage, a couple of little cubby holes, some hooks so you can strap things on, shopping bag hook there, a little bit Skoda-esque. Good size boot really in here, really nice. No power tailgate, but then at this price point, I wouldn't expect it. Now, if you buy one of these, you want space and practicality. We've already talked about the size of the boot, and the rear passenger legroom and comfort is very, very impressive. I am a tall chap, I say this on every film, 6'3", big long legs, and I sit here really comfortably. I mean, if you're in the market for a family car, you've got a couple of kids, you know, even teenage kids, and you want to take stuff away for the weekend, this car is already ticking lots of boxes. But the box that it ticks, which I really don't expect, is the quality of the materials and the fit and finish. It's very, very impressive in here, even better in the front. Now then, before I tell you about the upfront interior, there are two trim levels for the ZS. There's the SE and the Trophy. This is the top spec Trophy. But the price. The SE is £22,000. In fact, you'd get £5 change from £22,000. And this car is £24,500. And it is packed with tech. But the first thing you would expect at a car at that price point, certainly I would, is it to feel cheap and nasty in here, for there to be low-grade materials. And it's just not that way at all. The Trophy has leather seats. The steering wheel has a leather trim. It's got really nice materials on the inside. There's a really nice kind of leatherette on the door cards. The top, yes, that's plastic, and on the top that's a soft touch plastic. But it's got kind of fake stitching, but that doesn't matter, because to the eye it just makes you think that it's a nice leather trimmed dash. If I just fire the car up, the infotainment system, it's got this big screen here and another big screen in front. It's a really impressive, I'm going to turn the stereo down just in case. It's a very impressive set of screens. There's real buttons. There's a row of real buttons here, quick cuts. Now, admittedly, there's some of them for your climate control, emergency lights, home screen for the main infotainment, and up and down volume for the stereo. You've got this kind of, I think they call it the blade or the wing gear changer. I quite like that. In the days of cars having like a little button to change gear, here you just put your whole hand on. I really like that. And then you've got your main sort of drive controls, start stop button, drive mode just there. There's a little place to put your smartphone but there. Now, we're actually using Google Maps for our navigation, and we've got a little USB cable to connect our smartphones, but that sits quite nicely. A couple of drinks containers there, and then a little cubby hole just there. So it's just lots and lots of just nice things. You know, it's a nice place to be. The seats are comfortable. There's like brushed materials just there. For the price point, it is unbelievable, and we haven't even started driving it yet. I'm sat here in a car, £24,500, and I'm thinking, if this was a German brand, I shall name no names, you'd double that easily. And if you compare it with some of the more, if you like, the more cost-effective brands, it's still market leading in terms of price. So when I asked you to view this car on its merits as a car, forgetting the badge, then quality-wise, fit and finish-wise, just the way it's put together. And it's got a 7-year, 80,000-mile warranty. And if you just to kind of, I'm not trying to be a salesperson here, but honestly, cars like this excite me. In the days where I review cars that are 40, 50, 60, 70,000 pounds, this car on a 3-year PCP with £3,000 down is £360 a month. Now, for a lot of people that want a quality car that's going to have space, that's going to be efficient, that's going to be safe, that's going to be reliable, 350 quid a month sounds like a good price to me. So let's get some cameras set up and go for a drive, because honestly, the way this car drives is very impressive. Okay, I'm going to start the driving part of the review in eco mode. There's 3 modes: eco, normal and sport. Now, unusually for hybrid, there's also 3 levels of regenerative braking setting. And there's 2 programmable little buttons on the steering wheel, little stars, and you can go into the menu and set them to do lots of things. But one of the stars they've set to change the regen braking levels. I'm on the most severe level of regen braking. And it's sufficient enough to balance and retard the car quite nicely on a road. It's a 50-mile-an-hour road. And in eco mode, the car feels like it's got a reasonable amount of zip. But the first thing that you notice when you get in this car straight away is it feels very robust and very solid. Again, I don't know how many times I'm going to say this car's only 24.5 grand. But for a sub £25,000 brand new car, the expectation might be that it feels a bit tinny and a bit weak. And I think the early MG ZS EV I ran as a long-termer, it was all right, but it didn't feel nearly as big and strong and robust as this. And on a road like this, it just sits on the road, it's got a really nice ride to it, and it just feels like a proper quality place to be. It's got so many different ADAS systems, driver assistance systems, lane departure warnings, speed bongs, blind spot warnings. But the main infotainment system, or driver information screen in front is very, very competent. It's nicely laid out. At the moment, I've just got it showing me my efficiency. Now, interestingly, we've done 40 miles already today. I'm averaging 49.6 miles to the gallon. So, if you're going to buy a hybrid, one of the reasons you're going to do that is because you want to have a really fuel efficient car, and so far it's definitely ticking that box. Wave and be on Google Street View. And then the main infotainment screen, I'm running Google Maps because the press route that we've got is on Google Maps. But when you drop down to the native systems, it's all well and good. It's a nice, relatively easy to navigate infotainment system. Main negative I've spotted so far from the drive up is the stereo isn't the best. Now, I'm not a particularly big kind of hi-fi kind of guy. I do like listening to music in a car. I tend to listen to more podcasts in a car, actually. And I was listening to a podcast earlier on and it was great. Then I put some music on and it just didn't quite have the depth of sound and bass that I'm used to in cars with really premium stereo systems. So if music is your thing, maybe that's something to think about. But normal driving, very, very impressive. Driving around a built-up area or a town in this car is a real joy. It's running as an EV pretty much all the time, and I think because it's got a slightly bigger battery than a lot of hybrids, it's just got that breadth, that scope to run as an EV, and the motor itself is a pretty powerful one. So it's not like it's a sluggish, detuned version of itself when you're driving around on the motor, but you've got that nice, quiet, calm feeling, and also from an emissions point of view, clearly for clean air and all that kind of stuff. So often on reviews I don't head to a built-up area to do my road test, because you want to be finding out what the handling's like, what the steering feels like. But this car on its day-to-day life cycle is going to be driven around built-up areas like this a lot, and with the regen braking, that's mostly there. That car's just slowed down a little bit more. I had a tiny bit of foot brake. but it's a very, very nice car to drive around a built-up area. However, we're near some really nice roads, I think, so why don't we head off? I'm in Banbury at the moment. Head off towards the Cotswolds, head over towards Jeremy Clarkson's house, try and find some twisties. Okay, drive mode up into normal. Instantly more punch and more performance. Let's see what it feels like when you get to a corner. Lift off, regen braking slowing us down a little bit. Now I'm not expecting this car to set the world on fire in terms of handling, steering feel, braking performance. That's not what the car's about, clearly, but you can learn a lot when you tip a car into a corner, and it's not got the best steering feel in the world, but what I really like is when you accelerate, some hybrids, the engines can sound like they're really straining. The transition between the motor and then the internal combustion engine driving the car is super smooth, and you really get a feeling that you've got some power under your right foot. You can really accelerate away, lean on the car, and it's got healthy acceleration. So you accelerate away there. So that was interesting. So that's accelerating away in electric, and then it gets to a point where the EV can't cope on its own, and the internal combustion engine kicked in, and it did scream a little bit. But honestly, it's one of the most competent and smooth feeling hybrid drivetrains I've driven, and I've driven quite a few, and I'm a big fan. We're not on a main road or dual carriageway now, but the main screen in front, it has, I think the first time I saw it was probably in Tesla, where it's aware of what the cars are, and it shows you the cars surrounding you on the screen when you're overtaking and those types of things, and it does it really nicely, and it's really impressive. And then you get to think, this car's less than 25 grand, people. you don't expect tech like that on a car, well, I don't anyway, on a car at this price point. You expect a compromise somewhere, and I'm not massively sure at the moment where the compromise is, because it's hard to find it, honestly. You think, okay, the compromise is going to be in fit and finish on the inside. Nope. The compromise is going to be on the drivetrain. It's going to feel a little bit underpowered and a bit rubbish. Nope. The compromise is going to be internal tech. The screens are going to be old technology, or they're not going to have all the gadgets and gizmos that modern day cars have. Nope. I mean, yes, wireless CarPlay would be nice. Yes, a wireless charge map would be nice for my phone, although they always overheat, so you're actually better off with your phone on a cable. You're going to compromise on looks. That's always a subjective thing. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder and all that. But I don't think this is a bad looking car. I mean, it's a big improvement from the early ZS models. And actually, in some angles, it you know, if you took the badge off, you'd be hard pushed to work out who made it. So yeah, it's a tricky one. I'm struggling to find compromises. Okay, nothing else for it. Sport mode it is. Instantly more pep. You can feel the engine just moving and working a little bit harder. But this road surface is not too many potholes, but it's quite undulating and quite bumpy, and the suspension's dealing with it really competently, really nicely. The brake pedal itself, the second you put your foot on, it's very firm. It doesn't have a huge amount of travel, which is nice. It doesn't feel soft and squidgy. When you kind of come out of a corner, you've got plenty of that's it. Now, hopefully, this tractor's gonna not go straight on, is he? Let's do a bit of acceleration, shall we? That's up to 60. That is no slouch, this car, you know. It's really interesting. That the initial pull away is under electric motor, then the engine kicks in. It's really interesting. I love hybrids. I love as an engineer, just my brain's trying to think, okay, how, I'm not a great mechanic, but I did an engineering degree, how the systems, the computers in the car are calculating when it needs to be motor, when it needs to be internal combustion engine, how it blends the power in between the two. Really very, very clever. Little bit of chirp from the front axle there, just as I applied the power as we just came over that crest. And the really, so remember I asked you right at the beginning to ignore the badge. Let's pretend I was doing a blind test, like, you know, the old Pepsi challenge. And they put me in this car and there wasn't an MG badge on the steering wheel, boss, and there wasn't an MG badge on the hood. And I went and drove the car and they came back and said, right, tell me where that's made, who makes that car? Honestly, and I'm not saying this for any other reason than being purely honest, this could be any premium brand. It could be any of the German car manufacturers. It could certainly be, I'm driving a Kia Niro plug-in hybrid at the moment. It feels as solid and as well put together as the Kia I'm driving. It could be a BMW. The only thing is, if it was a BMW, it wouldn't be £24,500. It would be £50,000 to £60,000. That's the difference. And you know, people question, and there was a big old furore around Festival of Speed this year when MG were the title or the central feature sponsor, and they were celebrating 100 years of MG, and there was lots of the old kind of generation that were really put out by the fact that MG even modern day MG dare speak of the heritage of the old Morris garages. And most of the people saying all the rubbish stuff about, oh, it's rubbish, MG are rubbish, oh, they're made in China, oh, they're poor quality, they're rubbish cars, how dare they? I bet you 90% of them have never driven one. And honestly, if you drive one, I now understand why they're selling so well. You know, for the price point, just the bang for buck is remarkable. Like, really, really remarkable. You don't get in this car and feel shortchanged in any way. And as I've said, you're almost sitting here going, what's the catch? Yes, there's a few things. I don't like the fake exhausts. The stereo's not the best. But for a drive, it's very impressive. So final impressions of the MG ZS Hybrid Plus. It's a very good car. Oh boy. And I think it will shake up the market, you know, and I can see why. And honestly, you know, lots of you have reached out and said, Pete, do more cars at an affordable price point. I'm in the premium trophy version. Had I just been in the SE, that's £21,500 or from. You can put some options on there to increase the price, but even the base model, they come with a lot of kit on them. So even at that 21.5 grand, you've got a lot of car. Even in the SE, you've still got the same main screen with the kind of traffic recognition systems, all the safety systems. It's a very impressive car. I would love to know your thoughts. Put in the comments below, what do you think of MG as a brand? What do you think of their cars? I've got 8 different cars. Now, one of the things I am going to be doing while I'm with the MG press team today is getting my hands on the Cyberster. Their all-electric roadster, soft top with the big butterfly doors, which I think are a bit silly. Desperate to drive one of those. But this car, yep, very impressed. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. Now the good thing, oh, car in a ditch there, ouchie, ouchie. The good thing is, I've still got quite a bit of driving to do before I get back to Vista Heritage, where we started our press drives today, and all the roads are lovely, so I'm going to enjoy that. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. See you on the next one. Drive safe.